Kia ora whanau, welcome to, crikey, I've forgotten, episode 11 or maybe 12 of the Paul and Henry Show. That's Paul and Henry talking about stuff that you should know. I'm just going to start with a karakia timatanga that we use at Waka Kotahi. So tuturu whakamaa kia tina. Tina will be the end of it, and when I say that, I want you all to call out the big tina as well. So ka ronga tātou e te reka o te kōrero, ko ngā tikana, ko ngā kawa, ko te whanaungatanga, ko te manaakitanga. He kōrero mā te henenaro, mā te wairua, mā te tina nā mā tātou te whanu o te Waka Kotahi. Tuturu whakamoa kia tina.
Tina.
Humi e hui e, tae ki e. Awesome. Thank you, whanu. Really cool to have with us today Erin Wilson. Erin is he is a man that I have a hell of a lot of respect for. He's been really helpful with me for the last year or so, helping me in my journey, learning about all things Māori, Te Ao Māori and Te Ao Māori principles. So it's a real privilege to have Erin on the show today. Welcome, Erin.
Kia ora, tēnā koe kei te hoa. Paul, tēnā koe i tō kōrero mai ki au, tēnā koe i tō pōwhiri mai ki au kia haere mai ki roto ki tā tātou wānanga ki tō tātou kōrero i te ahiahi nei. Thanks, Paul, for inviting me to join with you on this show. It's really my privilege and my honour to be
Kia ora.
joining you today.
Thank you. So we've asked you to come along to talk about things Māori. So if I could start with a bit of a question. We talk about Te Ao Māori principles, and we have those in Te Waki Te Maia, and we have them underpinning many other strategies at Waka Kotahi. What does that really mean when we're talking about Te Ao Māori principles?
It's a good question, and it's a question that's asked of me many, many times. And Te Ao Māori principles are perspectives or viewpoints or guiding signposts that are used in Te Ao Māori to give some shape and some structure and some order to the way things are done, the way things are thought, the way things are discussed. Without them, would fall into a whole lot of chaos, and that's not what we want to be doing. And so, when we talk about Te Ao Māori principles, Manaakitanga is one of those, for instance, one of those principles. Manaakitanga is up there with the big ones, the big principles. Kotahitanga, whanaungatanga, rangatiratanga, and Manaakitanga is up there with those ones. And those principles, they shape and they form what we understand and know as Te Ao Māori today. Te Ao Māori is the universal or the university of knowledge of the Māori world. Some people say it's the view of the Māori world, others say it's the lens of the Māori world, and those are correct as well. And so we're talking about the influence as well of Te Ao Māori, the Māori world, on our decision-making, our thoughts, and our conversations that we have today. And so they're very, very important for the way that Māori in this world see the rest of the world, see the environment or te tai ao around them, to be able to give them some guidance and direction about the way they should make decisions about today for the future. It's really about having the opportunities and the responsibilities of today and making good decisions so that it doesn't have a negative impact on our generations to come. So we need to be guided in some way, shape or form by these types of by principles and by values. And for instance, manaakitanga, kotahitanga, whanaungatanga, and rangatiratanga, without them would definitely topple over. So,
Cool, Erin. Thank you.
Yeah, and just hearing all that, Erin, reminded me, you know, you might ask the question, so why, as Waka Kotahi, as a land transport regulator, do we need to think about all of that? And as a lawyer, one of the places I start from is there's a really great Waitangi Tribunal report, which I've just pulled up, Y262, and it says, Fundamentally, there is a need for a mindset shift away from the pervasive assumption that the Crown, that's us, the government, is Pākehā, English-speaking, and distinct from Māori rather than representative of Māori. Increasingly, in the 21st century, the Crown is also Māori. If the nation is to move forward, this reality must be grasped. And I guess that's the point, right? The government, if the government has an identity, it shouldn't be Pākehā or Māori or anything else. But what it should certainly be is inclusive of a Māori identity, right?
I agree. Without Te Ao Māori thinking, without Te Ao Māori philosophies, you do end up in a place of them and us, right? Instead of we, instead of we're all together. And so I think it's very important for us as a government agency to embrace the thinking from Te Ao Māori, because, you know, for a lot of us, a lot of our work takes us into the realms of communities, Māori communities and Māori thinking. So, you know, we think, oh, okay, what's the best way to be able to work and to live and to operate with our communities, with our Māori communities around the country? And one of the ways that we could do that is by trying to understand what makes them tick.
Yep.
What's important to them, what values and what principles and behaviours are important to them, what are their priorities, what are their goals, aspirations and ambitions, and all those things are very important. And so too, understanding, you know, from where they are coming from and the principles that they operate from. And so that's the position that happens up and down the country. It doesn't matter what Māori communities you come across, they will still have these fundamental principles and values and beliefs, philosophies that come from Te Ao Māori.
Yeah, so I see actually, you know, we should be doing this because all of government should be seeing itself as representative of Māori and having a Māori identity. We should also be doing this because, as you say, it's really helpful when engaging with Māori and out in the community. But also, as I think we're going to find through this chat, it's also a really helpful framework for a regulator, even when we're not specifically dealing in Māori communities. It's actually a worldview that is very helpful for us to organise our work.
There's also a huge amount of value that we can learn from looking at the Te Ao Māori world, isn't there?
Yeah. So we want to not do it just because it's our job, just because it's our responsibility to do it, but that it's the right thing to do, right? And on top of that, we do that because it's our role as servants of the country in our in Waka Kotahi to do those things which we know are right to do, that we want to do, and we want to do the very best at. So those are thoughts and ideas that are very important to us.
Kia ora, Erin. Thank you. We've been going through a bit of a tough time over the last year or so with COVID-19 and the impact that's had on everyone in their personal lives and their work lives. One of the big values there for me is Manaakitanga, and you've identified that as being one of the top of all the values there. Do you want to talk us through Manaakitanga, please, Erin, and what that really means to us?
Manaakitanga, in short, is about thinking about the welfare and the well-being of others. It's about thinking from their perspective what they need to do, what they need to have happen to them, so that their lives are good and successful and are valuable. Manaakitanga is the expression of those types of ideas, those thoughts. Manaakitanga is the hands and the feet and the eyes and ears of Manaaki. Manaaki is this concept, this idea, this principle of caring for others. thinking of others, being aware of others, being conscious of others and the needs of others. Manaakitanga goes a step further and says, well, how can I express and a behaviour of manaakitanga, manaaki to people, to others? What should I think? What should I do? What should I say that makes their lives a bit better than, for tomorrow than they are today? Going out of your way sometimes to be able to help them. And it's one of those things, I guess, in government agencies we can kind of struggle with a bit. We say, well, we've got a function that says we have to do this, this, and this. Where does this principle of manaakitanga, caring for others, what business does it have in this? And I say, well, actually, it is the thing that influences everything in your work that you do. You don't think about it the last thing before you go to bed. You think of it the first thing when you get out of bed. Manaakitanga, how can I help and show courtesy to others in my role as a person here at Waka Kotahi, because it's one of my personal values.
So, Erin, I'm hearing, if I've got this right, that manaakitanga isn't something that you just kind of turn off and on every now and then so you can tick the box. You actually wake up living and breathing it.
Manaakitanga is at the opposite end of that spectrum, that continuum. It doesn't even need to think about turning on and off. It just is.
It just lives there in your heart the whole time, caring for other people and extending that and showing it.
Those sorts of things may take some of us, a little while to get our heads around, but I bet if they turned off the on and off switch and they just did it, they wouldn't realise that they would be doing that, and become second nature after a little while.
Awesome. And if I think about that from a pure regulatory perspective, we're in the job of saving lives and reducing harm and protecting people from harm. If anything, that feels like it has a manaakitanga aspect to it, even though we might not be reaching out to those people individually. It's the broader impact of our work.
Yeah, well, we operate in accordance with rules and regulations and limits and restrictions so that others can be safe, so that others can be taken care of, so that others can feel that they are being taken care of when we use our functions, our facilities, those sorts of things. And most of the time it's stuff we do that others don't even see.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And is that any less manaakitanga? No, it's manaakitanga, but you just don't see it. And so I'm going to go to this whakatauki. It's called Ko Te Ao Māori ki mua, ko te hāpai o ki muri. And what that says is the chiefs that are seen, Ko Te Ao Māori ki mua, the chiefs that are in the front house, in the front of the house, the ones that are seen, ko te hāpai o ki muri. Te hāpai o means those people who provide the food and the nourishment and the sustenance for the people in the front to go about their work and their responsibilities. And the people who are out the front can't do their job unless the people who are providing the sustenance, who are at the back, whose work never gets seen. We rely on those people to do their mahi, right? And so the people in the back, they are rewarded in their mahi when they are acknowledged and recognised through speech for their hospitality and the food, that enables the people in the front of the house, the speakers, the people who do karanga, to go and do their mahi. So there's a reliance of those people who are out in front, those ones who are seen, upon the people who are behind the scenes doing their mahi, and there's a reliance on those people who are behind the scenes on the people in the front to do their mahi, so that there is understanding and that brings recognition and acknowledgement. So none of these things act in isolation. Right? So, but the thing is, manaakitanga, it's something that happens, and you don't see what happens, but the fruits and the what it produces are always there. So you see them, and they are the tangible things, right? So,
Erin, I always love hearing you talk about this stuff, and I'm starting to get an understanding too that through Manaakitanga, there's no kind of ego or expectation that you'll get something back for it. It's just something that you give rather than seek to receive.
Yeah, so it's not I'm going to give, if I give you this, you'll give me that. That doesn't come into it. That's not part of it. That's not Manaakitanga. That's a contract.
Selfless. Yeah.
Right?
It's
That's
selfless.
an agreement. If you do this for me, then I'll do that back for you. Manaakitanga isn't concerned with those sorts of things. I'm going to give you this out of the library of my knowledge so that you can benefit, and that's all I'm interested in.
Oh, kia ora, Erin, and we absolutely appreciate it so much. Henry, did you have a question? You wanted to raise an example or a topic before you talked about?
I did. I've got a little guest with me too, so hopefully there's not too much interruption.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm working from home. Thanks, Erin. Yeah, I think when you were talking about Manaakitanga, I was thinking some people might be going, but I thought we were meant to be firm and fair, and this sounds like we're, trying too hard to be nice guys. And I think, we always emphasise it's firm and fair. It's doing both of those things at once.
Yeah.
And a simple way of thinking about it, maybe too simple, Erin, is to go, the firm is what we do. It's the final decisions we make. And the fair is how we go about doing it and how we treat people along the way. And I think I see Manaakitanga every day, and the way we deal with people who we think are non-compliant, but we try and make sure they fully understand their rights and they fully understand what they can do to help themselves. And I've seen it where we've had people, they've applied under the wrong bit of law, or they haven't given us the right information, and they're about to be timed out. The law has like a 20-day time limit, and we could just say to them, sorry, you failed to exercise your rights correctly, see you later. But in those cases, we actually say to people, look, you've actually got this wrong. Let's reset the clock, explain to you what you're meant to do. We'll reset the clock and give you another 20 days. We still might ultimately take some pretty strong sanctions against those people, but it's the way we treat them and the way we communicate with people as well, in a way which is trying to, I guess, enhance their mana and help them make the most of the legal rights they have.
Yeah, so, people get the wrong impression. So there's a time where you need to be firm, where you need to be fair, you need to be proper, you need to be correct, you need to be straight down the barrel, so that everyone can enjoy the benefits. Right? For instance, you think of, I'm thinking of my grandmother, who took care of me, and she had the option to just let me do whatever I like, I liked, and to let me run riot. But she knew if I behaved that way as a child, it might turn out that I behaved that way as an adult. That's going to get nobody nowhere. It's not going to do any favors for me either. So she needed to be able to pull me up from time to time to say, hey, the thing that you're doing is taking you off on the wrong pathway. It's not the pathway I intended for you, and it's not the pathway that I want to see you walk down. But I need you to come back onto this pathway because it's the right pathway. And it might upset you. It might hurt you, your feelings, for me to speak to you in this tone and in this manner, but it's for your own good. And I don't see that there's too much differentiation between the explanation of that grandmother, my grandmother to me, than what we're doing in this mahi. Sometimes we need to come out, and sometimes we need to pull out the ruler to wrap people over the knuckles, and I got wrapped over the knuckles once or twice by my grandmother, in order for me to say, to wake up, to say, hey, I'm on the wrong track. Bring me back to the yellow brick road, the proper way to be walking on. So, there's nothing wrong. And so being firm and fair is opposite of being weak and soft. It's not about that. It's being able to put people into the places that they need to be so they can enjoy the benefits just like everyone else.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Awesome, Erin. Awesome. We try not to let these things go too long, but man, I could just talk to you for hours on this subject, Erin. So
yeah,
that's
fine.
I'm going to invite you back for another one of these, because I think there's some other things that we could absolutely talk about.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we before we wrap this one up? I think this has been a really good start in our learning journey through this avenue to be talking about Te Ao Māori.
So, you know, when we bake cakes, we may break the odd egg or two. We may drop some flour on the ground. We may overcook some things, but eventually we will drop less and less, smash less and less eggs. We will drop less and less flour, and we'll overcook less the rewana bread that we're cooking in the ovens, right? Until we get to the stage where we don't make any mistakes, where we don't make any drop any ingredients on the floor or make any mess, and that our rewana bread turns out beautiful. That's what we're after. Putting all those things together. It's going to take some time. We're going to slip. We're going to stumble. We're going to trip from time to time. It's just part of, you know, learning and growing, and part of life. And the main thing is that we learn from those sorts of things. And that's really what the Te Ao Māori view is. That we take on these principles, and they help guide us. From time to time, we'll muck up. We'll put our foot in our mouths. We'll just go and do something crazy. And then the responsibility we then do is to reflect back on and say, how am I not going to make those mistakes again?
Golda. Thank you, Erin. Thank you so much for coming along. Henry, did you have anything at all you wanted to add before I hand over to you to close us out with the karakia mutanga?
No, just to say, I guess encourage people maybe to go back and check out the Te Ao Māori principles in Te Waka Tumaya and the way we've expressed them in there. We've talked a lot about Manaakitanga today, but those other ones are in there too. Whakapono, whanaungatanga, kotahitanga. So good time to go and reacquaint yourself with Te Waka Tumaya, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry.
Thanks, Erin. That was really cool.
Yeah, brilliant. Love hearing you speak every time, Erin. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, it.
We're going to hand over to before you duck off. We'll hand over to Henry for a karakia timatanga. Karakia mutanga, sorry, Henry, if you could please.
Kia ora. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia makina kina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai. E heaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu. Ti he Māori ora.
Māori ora. Good whānau, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll get Erin back. Ka pai.